Well, hello again, and welcome back to DJNTV. I'm Bill Herman. I'm going to be the host of the DJNTV show, DJ show, in coordination with Photo Booth Expo. That's going to be February 24th, 25th, and 26th at the South Point Hotel in Las Vegas, Nevada. You also might know me from my little show here on DJNTV, Creative License, but that's not what we're here to talk about. Today, we've got our presenter spotlight. And one of the presenters that's going to be at the conference on Wednesday, I believe he's slotted for 3 o'clock, is the gentleman there next to me. That's Jason Klock. Jason, how are you?
I'm fantastic. Hope everybody else is doing the same.
Very well. Thanks a lot. Yeah, we are. Everybody's doing really great. It's nice to have you on. So, you look like a really successful entrepreneur with all the things that I can see here from the little bit that I've been able to glean from this, from the research I've done. I mean, from being on the board of directors of Big Brothers and Big Sisters to having your own company, Klock Entertainment. Looks like you even were with Goldman Sachs for a while, for goodness sakes. How in the world did you end up being a DJ? Well, actually, before we ask that, let me ask, are you from Pennsylvania?
I am. I'm born and raised Harrisburg, Hershey, Pennsylvania area. So if you've ever eaten our chocolate, I've lived my whole life about 30 minutes from where the Hershey Kisses are made. And
does that create a thing for you about chocolate?
Not necessarily. I just, a lot of people will know what Hershey is before I can describe what Harrisburg is. So they're about 25 minutes from each other. Yeah. And a few years ago, I got tired of trying to explain geographically Harrisburg, so I just started saying I'm from Hershey. But technically, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, the capital of PA, is where I was born, where I was raised, and where I have my family today. So love to travel, but my roots are strong here in the Harrisburg, Pennsylvania area.
So and when you were a kid, were you an entertainer, or did you have any idea about that sort of thing? Or what?
There's home videos of me trying to play the guitar or sing or that type of stuff. However, I will let everybody know that I'm the worst singer in the world. So I just decided to be an MC instead because I like the microphone. I gave up on trying to sing. Before my time, my grandfather owned a music store, Klock's House of Music, in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, which was still known today as one of the best music stores. He had closed decades before Guitar Center and those types of places kind of came into our market. But at the time, that was it. That's where you got your amps. That's where you got your speakers and so on and so forth. With that, all of my grandfather's kids, the 3 brothers, one being my father, had all played in bands and had taken a love to music and instruments and gave lessons and that type of stuff. So it was in the blood. It was in the genes. I'm the first DJ. But as a kid, yeah, I was the roadie for my dad's band. I was playing music in between sets once I got into high school or junior high. Wow. And that kind of entered me into that entertainment life, if you will, that you got to work on Saturdays if you're a Klock. And high school, there was always sound equipment, a drum kit, or DJ gear in my car. And I was working every night of the week that I could, whether it be at a bar. I mean, my parents didn't love that at 18 years old or 19 years old, but it was happening. And
I couldn't get away. If Dad's bringing you on gigs, though, you probably have been in bars already.
I think the problem was when the gigs weren't with my dad, and I was 18 years old on a Thursday, senior year of high school, playing the drums at a bar. I think that's that. But at any rate,
Dad knows what's going on there.
There you go. I stayed safe. I never got in trouble, and I never crossed that line actually because I loved it so much. I wanted to make something up. Goldman Sachs was actually a program, 10,000 Small Businesses, I graduated with in 2018. So I enrolled in their 10,000 Small Businesses program, which I highly recommend. I had to take it out of Philadelphia just because Harrisburg's a smaller city. So I had commuted back and forth. But if anybody's looking for core business guts and knowledges and processes, it's a great program. They should Google and see if it's available in their market.
Well, had you made a choice to go there because you wanted to know about business, or were you like, Dad said, hey, you know something, kid?
Well, so this was actually just a couple years ago in 2018 that I went through that program. I had found out about it from a mentor of mine, Matt Radicelli, who owns Rock the House out of Cleveland. He went through that program a few years back as well and recommended it to me, and really did a great job of breaking down processes. My favorite session of Goldman Sachs, and we'll only spend a couple seconds on this portion, was their negotiations clinic, talking to people, which can help with sales, but even more so help you with your employees so you can kind of common denominator, get the result that you did. And I'm no expert in negotiations, but it really opened, my eyes up and my ears up to a lot of cool stuff. And going to a bigger city, Philadelphia versus Harrisburg, was kind of cool too. It broadened my network, and even like going to the photo booth expo, and with us here in February, it's not always everything for education. It's networking and surrounding yourself by like-minded people. And I have booked work and have worked with people throughout the country, which is pretty cool, just from meeting people a decade ago at a conference, whether it be a DJ one or an event one or what have you. But at any rate, I just wanted to, I didn't work for Goldman Sachs. I just went through their education program, which I recommend. It's free. You're granted a scholarship you have to apply for, you have to interview for. A really cool program that I had gotten involved in.
Well, that's very, I will certainly want to know more about that as we go.
Yeah.
So let's back up a little bit to when you were younger and when you did your DJing. I mean, if you were just playing for sets for Dad, I mean, he probably wasn't paying you very much, if anything at all.
No, nothing. It was just, I wanted to go and just turn stuff up loud.
And even after high school, like, you want to go and turn stuff up loud. I mean,
it really had to do with the time that I got my driver's license at 16 and a half. And once I had that ticket to pretty much leave the home without having to pack gear in mom or dad's vehicle, that's when I was able to pretty much charge for gigs. Prior to that, it was, me hauling sound equipment so my 14-year-old band, teenage band, could play in a half pipe at a skate park or something like that.
Cool.
You know what I mean? Then that was, that drove my mom nuts too, but that's okay. But at any rate, it was really
hold on a second. What was the name of the band? I want to know.
Oh my gosh, there were so many. You're a teenager. You change the name of your band more than you change your
Let me hear it, man. Come on, let's hear it.
The first one, I think we called ourselves Versus Vader, which I don't even know what the name was. It had to do with being a Star Wars fan.
Yeah, you think.
One was called 16 Minutes, because everybody deserves 15 minutes of fame, but we wanted one more minute than everybody else.
That's pretty good.
The other one was the name of a guitarist's neighborhood called Chartwood. He lived in Chartwood Homes, so we were real original with that one. I played in a cover band when I was 20 called the F-Bombs. And we had this giant bomb, emblem, and like a bleeding red that went around it. It was pretty funny. Exactly. Those are the few that kind of pop off the top of my mind.
So your band, you're a band at 14. You're playing music between sets. I mean, what makes you, like, your first DJ gig? Was that like, well, because musicians don't normally have anything to do with DJs. They, in fact, especially back when your dad was around, we were the bane of their existence. So
I know.
The question is, how did you, other than maybe, because you're maybe revolting against your parents, get into and want to do DJ?
So for me, I enjoyed I thought that I never liked how bands took breaks. And I never liked that there was nothing being played at that time.
Right.
So when I was 10 years old, or I would play music, or 13 years old or 14 music, and play some backtracks or something like that between a set, I was doing that to keep an entertainment thing going. And just as
you've got that going on.
For whatever reason, that was in my head. But at any rate, as a teenager, it's also hard to keep a band together. And I wanted to entertain, and I wanted to perform. The only instrument, too, that I could play were the drums. So here I am with this energy to perform, but I'm stuck behind a drum kit. I can't sing, so I can't be a front man. The only common denominator at that point was to be a DJ, because I'd have the energy to kind of entertain a little bit or orchestrate the crowd.
Right.
And from that standpoint,
keep time.
Yeah, my first DJ job, technically, I think I combined a couple of home stereo systems together in 4th grade for a birthday party.
Oh, my.
Then 8th grade, I did like a graduation something. And then prior to that, in between, I actually had DJ'd for my junior high. I borrowed all the band's equipment and stacked it up in a gym because the DJ had backed out in 8th grade, I believe that was. So I was also mowing lawns and everything like that for everybody in the neighborhood. I was a rare kid. I just wanted to work and make money, so I could buy music. So I had all this music and stuff like that too. But yeah, DJing I always kind of had a heart for, but I loved playing the drums too. I couldn't keep a band together, and I didn't want anybody else to control whether or not I could book a job. So then I was just like, I'm going to DJ because I can control my bookings. I'm never going to go anywhere against myself, and that type of thing. So we all know what it's like trying to keep a band together or something.
Oh gosh,
so,
yeah.
But at any rate,
and there's a lot of guys out there that can relate from going to music to that. And I can't tell you how many guys I talk to that usually it's drummer. It's almost always drummer, then DJ. Me too. And I was a bad drummer, and I thought I was awesome. So, so now you're doing this, and you want to make your own money. You've got you're not living at the home anymore. When do you decide to start a little company? And did you create a company, or did you just kind of just go out there and find money and beer and chicks like most of us?
So my my story, I was always doing this, but I never wanted to sit still either. So I actually had a couple of outside sales jobs pretty much between high school graduation and then when I went full time into creating what would be considered a business, what would be considered a company, not just a source of income as a sole proprietorship on your tax income or tax return. So for me, the timeline is roughly 2006. I graduated from high school. Started building my book of business at that point, where at least once a week I was DJing somewhere, somehow, something. And my first wedding was in high school, but to keep going forward in the conversation, I was really starting to get booked every weekend at that point, which would probably speed me up to roughly 2009. 2008, I actually started doing some advertising with wedding shows and such like that, just because I really wanted to make a push. And then I marketed myself out of my schedule. What I mean by that is my pendulum and ratio or demand curve for the amount of money that I had spent on marketing, I didn't now have a supply for. So I was now booked at that time every, Friday, Saturday with the peppered in Sundays or that type of stuff for weddings in 2008. And I was getting calls and turning down more business than I could book. So that's when I really started using, the platforms of trying to find a good employee. That employee then was pretty much an assistant for me throughout the duration of 2009. And I just trained him on site. And that's how that I ended up converting to the two-man team method at that time as well, because I sort of spoiled myself with a helper. And from there, now I had a headliner the following season. Then I had 2 more assistants the following season. Now I had 4 headliners and 4 assistants. The following season, I had 8 headliners and 8 assistants. We stopped doubling at one point, obviously, or I would, have even a greater larger, but now, but at any rate, so that's really kind of how those first 3 or 4 years of growth really took off. As I made sure that the assistant that was going to be with the DJ pretty much started training through osmosis on site, and a little bit of training in my garage or what have you. But that led me pretty much to 2011, which was the first year that I actually started cutting myself a paycheck rather than just pay myself per gig. And that was a sort of a test at the beginning of the year that I wanted to really try and do. I was doing all the sales appointments for the 4 DJs at that time. And then I was doing all the admin, the marketing, and all that type of stuff. But again, I had a sales job that was flexible. So I literally would sit with the sales laptop here, Klock's laptop here, go back and forth all day, make the calls I needed to do, and have evening appointments out of Starbucks, coffee places, what have you, Panera, and all of that.
That's crazy.
October, yeah.
That's crazy.
October
starting out as one guy operation and moving yourself to, it sounds like you were at a 16-person operation within a few years, and you still are holding on to the full-time job over here.
I jumped ahead with the doubling numbers. I had 4 DJs when I made that jump to be full-time.
Okay,
with the training.
Still,
yeah.
though,
So 2011,
and yep. If that's a goal, was it a goal for you to be able to have your own business and quit the old job? And if
absolutely.
So, at what point did it not? And there's a terrifying moment where you finally say goodbye to you doing all the work and me collecting a paycheck. I mean I'm not embarrassed to say. I'm not embarrassed to say. I'm pretty sure I cried throughout that process. I mean, it was terrifying. I pretty much that entire year was really having conversations with people close in my life, such as my
fathers, such as my wife, and was going through all of this type of stuff that I was just like, I just need to quit. I need to quit. And, I started resenting my full-time job because it allowed me to, it was preventing me from calling someone back in 3 minutes, and it was turning into 45 minutes because I was in an appointment for something I couldn't care less about. And at that point, that was my breaking point when I felt as though I was being taken away from Klock. Up until that point, Klock was extra. Klock Entertainment was manageable and extra. That was my free time. But the second that I felt that full-time job took me away from opportunity with Klock Entertainment, and the second that I felt like I was starting to pay some people to do maybe a setup of uplights or something, because we had the basic the tri-LED stuff in 2011, like starting to just kind of get some add-ons. I don't think we got a photo booth until, no, we had a photo booth in 11, two actually. So we were starting to get those add-ons and that type of stuff at that time frame too. But the breaking point really was just a matter of exhaustion. It was calculated and intentional. Like I said, I was starting to give myself a paycheck that, to be honest with everybody, paid the mortgage. And then the goal was that my spouse could pay for everything else, when and that type of thing, and we were going to try and set up a family and all that type of stuff. And I was like, well, if we're going to have kids, I want a year to do, I want to give this a shot now at 24 years old, because the longer you hold on to a career and a cushy corporate life, the harder it's going to be to let go. And I just kind of hit my breaking point one day. I said, screw it. I was confiding in a lot of people, close to me, such as my grandfather who owned that music store, who had quit selling life insurance at one point in his life to open up the shop. And I just quit. And it was, I remember walking in to send my resignation and met with my manager, and they laughed at me and were like, DJ company? What the hell is that? And I was like, I'm going to show you. So now I love when they knock on my door trying to sell me payroll. That's always entertaining. So at any rate, not to be spiteful.
No, that's the juice, baby. Come on.
So I was in outside sales, and you're pushing, whatever the product was that I was selling. I sold 3 separate products. And I love nothing more than the satisfaction of a place that I had once cold called, or a place that had once treated you like crap because you were a salesperson, and then they knock on my door now for the business. Oh, I love those conversations more than anything. But anyways, back to the DJ world. I really I was exhausted, and I felt like I was being taken away. And I don't know. When you know, you know.
Absolutely.
Honestly, I followed my guide. I jumped.
Yeah. And honestly, the story you're telling me is of all the stories I've heard, and I've heard a lot of stories around that moment, yours is rare in that you are already thinking, you are building. It's like most guys go, here's my job, here's my pay job, I'm making $100,000, $150,000 a year, and my DJ thing, and then I just quit. And I wonder why I'm not making any money, right? And then they have to learn the hard way to build that back up to even here, much less the 3 times they need to be able to make to be able to get the salary they were getting before. And that's something that it looks like you were doing. You were kind of, you had a thing going there. I
wasn't paying myself to DJ for about a year. I was giving myself a salary that just went into a savings account as a "you fucked up, Jason" fund. Sorry for my language, but
Yeah.
But let's be real. I was trying to create myself a nest or a savings account that, like, God forbid that I fell flat on my face, I didn't want to not be able to pay my mortgage. I had worked for.
That's the thing I want people to hear. Yeah. That's the thing I want these guys to hear. I
DJ'd for free. I didn't spend $1 in that year. I probably spent a couple dollars, but I really invested into a savings account what I knew would get me through 6 to 9 months if I didn't sell a job or I didn't book a deposit. And if you remember in this conversation, the time of year of my resignation was late October. That's going in now to the off season. Now, I wasn't going to DJ a lot of jobs, but I wanted to be available to sell as much as I possibly could during that time of year. And that's why I made that decision, that timing too. If I'm going to quit now, I want to quit during sales season so I can build up 2012 to be as substantial as I possibly can.
Right.
And then I had some signs from life. I mean, call it fate, call it faith, whatever. I mean, I remember that the day that I had sent that resignation and turned in my laptop from the corporate world, I had a planning meeting with the November wedding, and they came in and they just had a DJ booked, and now they booked up lights with me and photo booth with me and a gobo with me, pretty much every add-on I had at the time. And I was like, wow, I'm going to have a good November now just from that one wedding. And then I remember that December, I don't even, I had a couple of holiday parties and stuff that came in last minute, but I was available to take the call then at that point, so that I was the first person to answer, so you're the first person to get the job. That's still a real thing. Always will be when someone's shopping. They're going to like you the best if you're the first to answer the phone. Hopefully that means they're going to book you if you don't plummet the conversation. But yeah, I knew it. And I was really careful with my finances because I didn't want to change my quality of life as much as I love that, because I knew if I changed my quality of life, then I wouldn't be loving what I did as much. It would be a little bit more painful. And we're not talking a lot of money. I mean, I was 24 years old. So it's not like I really cared or knew much about what a 401k was yet. Or really was calculated in that standpoint, which came later in life. But I wanted to make sure I paid my mortgage and you could eat something different than peanut butter and jelly. And that was true. Inside of 8 months of being full-time, that summer of 2012, we got our first office space, which I pretty much used my slush fund for the office to get furniture and in for that and reinvest it into the business, because I had not had to touch that fund throughout the course of the winter. I was able to maintain an income with just deposits and start building a savings account and such like that for the company. My first employee was a salesperson. So I could delegate sales and we could sell more and start doing bridal shows, wedding shows and such like that. And the second person I hired was someone to kind of help me with operations, which at that scale, I would say 2013, 2012, we were probably, 2012, we did around $300,000 in revenue, which I had doubled from the year before of about $150,000 in revenue. And then the following year, we were $500,000, or something like that. Maybe 500, 600 or something. And then we stuck at those numbers for a handful of years, got a new office space, kind of grew from there. And now today, to fast forward, we have 6 full-time employees, 401k, 4% match, health insurance offered to the full-timers. We flirt around 12 to 15 DJs a year. Our average shelf life is 4 to 5 years for a headliner right now. Although we're still such a new company that's growing, because I have a couple of guys that have been with me, of course, since pretty much day one at that point. And we are averaging between 300. Some years we're right around 300 weddings, and other years we can get up to about 350 weddings. Our market isn't the largest market in the world. I mean, we're in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. We're not in Philadelphia. We're not in New York. We're not in Miami, Florida, or San Diego and stuff like that. So we don't have millions of population. We have become a destination spot, though, which has really grown our business. That's one thing I want to actually touch on. There's some timing I couldn't control. In 2011, when I went full time, we had roughly 60 wedding venues in a 2-hour radius of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Today, in 2020, we have 270.
Wow.
My market really grew, and I had a gut feeling, not being able to project that, but you have places like Lancaster County that now has probably 70 barn wedding venues that you can choose from. And we're pulling people in from New York, New Jersey, Delaware. We're a destination for people who might have grown up around here or, now live down in Florida and, grew up in Connecticut and want a mutual place for families to come together and such. So there's some cool things that kind of happened that I could have never controlled, that I was ready to go with an inventory of DJs. So when these venues were popping up in 13, 14, 15, 16, there weren't 30 different DJ companies yet in central Pennsylvania. There was Klock, a couple others, and a bunch of one-offs. And it's been kind of cool to see the industry grow. Now that our bubble has popped out here, there's certainly a lot more competition, which we have different things to attack now when it comes to sales and marketing and staying above and things like that, rather than just being available and be known. It's a whole other complexity to what we need to do. But that was kind of a cool thing that, I don't know, someone was looking over me and gave me 200 more wedding venues to work at. That's something I couldn't predict or control.
Well, that's one of the things that anybody watching this and are coming to the conference, a lot of guys, they come to these conferences thinking they're going to see these successful guys. That's a big glass of water. That's
I don't have time to get up out of my desk, so I just fill a jug every day.
I'm giving you crap. So they come and they want to see these successful guys, and I'm going to listen and I'm going to hear, oh, that's something I don't do. Oh, that's something I should try, which is all great. One of the best things about the conferences is you get to look at things that people are doing from another part of the world and think to yourself, well, that's interesting, and or I'm doing it the right way, or whatever they're doing. What does not usually show up, though, is the idea of how you can be successful because you have an actual plan. And that's the one thing that I'm hearing throughout the entire talk here, is that you, even at 11, had a plan for 12. And
I can't explain why that was. I just was wired that way.
But I can hear that. And then you're 18 and you go out and start your own thing. And yeah, you have your other gig, but you know that this has a plan. And there is a plan happening. There isn't just let's just leap at every turn. And usually a lot of the guys who go through their businesses leaping at every turn without thinking, without a plan, they end up taking smaller leaps as their business grows, if it grows at all. And then they're taking such a small leap that there isn't a growth. There's just something new that they're doing, right? Whereas if you have a plan that you can build incrementally, and you can forecast that if I do this, this will happen. If I do that, that will happen. Then there's something that a lot of guys are not listening for. When do they come to these conferences? And the idea
I think
you're going to be ending the conference on Wednesday at 3:00, when people get a chance to see all the stuff they thought they were going to see, and then sit with you and hear, just in your story, the idea that, a goal is a great thing, but without a plan, it's a jump off a cliff and it's a maybe, right? It's like
I still jumped off the cliff, but I had a backpack with me for a couple of things I could use. You know what I mean?
And I know you're being nice. You're saying you had a bit of a backpack, but I think you had a much bigger backpack than pretty much anybody I've ever talked to when it comes to this. And I know you and I have colleague friends. I mean, Radicelli's another one of those people that is really good at creating plan and being able to forecast and understanding what he's doing from the perspective as a businessman. And usually entertainers and DJs and performers, they avoid that part of the world. I want to use my performance side. Business is evil. It's the devil. You can just pay me to be creative. And they have a certain amount of success. And they do as much business as necessary to maybe keep them doing it with their full-time job. And what you have that's going to be very intriguing to people at this conference, even while you're walking around and they'd be able to stop you in the hallways, much less your 3:00 Wednesday presentation, is you have the roadmap. And it isn't just let's watch Jason Klock and do what he did. The roadmap really is that there should be a roadmap. And when you create it, you can create pretty much everything. And now, were you thinking, and I can tell you were thinking like this before you even went to Goldman Sachs small business program, but then that must have just exploded for you after you went there.
It definitely really helped. One thing I want to bring into perspective is I think everyone needs to be comfortable with what success means to them.
Oh, I can. Absolutely.
I mentioned it once in this conversation, and I get wrapped up in it, is I can never forget what my market size is, and I cannot control my population. So when I look at mentors and inspirers that are in our industry that I meet at conventions and conferences, and they're telling me that they do 900 weddings, and then I want to go bang my head up against the wall because I'm not reaching those numbers. It's not because I suck. It's just there's only so much you can do in a certain market or that type of stuff. And of course, there's other avenues. You don't have to limit yourself. You can be a Joe Biden and open up 89 locations throughout America, but
you want time in your life, don't you?
Hopefully he sees this and laughs at that point.
Oh yeah, he will.
This far in the video, but at any rate, that's something that I had definitely had to take a step back and be a little humble on, because there was a couple years where I was like, man, 319 weddings, 352 weddings, 310 weddings. I'm like, why aren't we hitting 600 weddings or 700 weddings? And then then I have these conversations with these venues and they say they do 90 weddings, but then I found out 30 of them were dinner parties with 12 people on the lawn. I'm like, oh, well, that makes sense. Then why we only had 40
DJ that said he did 900, many of them are when he turned up his stuff in his garage for his neighborhood.
Yeah, or he played 900 songs that year.
Right, exactly.
So,
well, I think a lot of us, we live in bravado, but I think what you're talking about here is that the idea of comparing yourself to another business to be able to whether or not you're going to be successful or not is just the old adage is, that the comparison is the death of happiness. So
right.
That's, and at a conference, you can easily do that where you're talking to people and you're looking at the successful people and you think to yourself, my gosh, I want that, I want that, I want that. Well, you can have that, but you need to look at it through the lens around, okay, but he knows what his success is in his life, in his world, in his town, for his family. Have you defined what yours is? Right?
Yeah.
And then quit looking back and saying, well, yeah, but I'm not doing 900. Oh, yeah, or if you're a guy doing 20, yeah, but I'm not doing 50. So I'm not successful. You're right. It is a definition that you have to come up with on your own. Because if you're chasing what everybody else has all the time, there's a lot of unhappiness there.
Yep. And not to necessarily say that was the case for me, but I just wanted everybody to know as I share my success story, I want everybody to be able to take the pieces that work for them and work for market, be contagious off of my energy and my plan and the way that I had done things. But as I had mentioned, numbers of employees or numbers of events, I don't want people to get caught up there because you could do 150 weddings in a market where that's just all that supports and still have an amazing life, amazing income, an amazing quality of living and be, just as successful as I am when it comes being able to pay your bills, have a savings account for your children's college and, see them for some sporting events and stuff like that. And I guess that's where I just kind of wanted to kind of throw that in is that as I've had a lot of conversations, I've talked to a lot of people where, I'm around the 300 to 400 mark in weddings. I know people who are 800 to 1,000. I know people who are doing a couple thousand weddings a year. And it's funny, our daily grind is probably similar. It's just that there's more zeros on the bank account at some point, and it's still great. You just got to find that common denominator of what's working for your market, what's working for you, and so on and so forth. And I just want to throw that out there because I've gotten hung up on possibly being discouraged for a moment early on, like, damn, I got to get that.
Right. So now when you, and before we wrap up, is that and your plan and some of your style and ideas, is that really what you'll be talking about during your talk?
Absolutely. I'll be sharing the story again with a little bit more depth and a few more other layers throughout that process. I plan to share a couple hardships too that maybe somebody can learn off of my expense of either time or dollar. I shared the fun. I shared the highlights here. And if you follow me on social media, of course, that's what you're seeing there too. I'm not going to post an Instagram story about when I'm firing somebody because they drank on the job. I'm not going to post on my Instagram story that I had a $22,000 insurance claim because someone put gas in a diesel vehicle.
Right.
Those are the things that I might not necessarily dive into my presentation, but we're business owners and we're going to get beat up. And we got to be able to have the right tools in place with vendors and policies in place and things like that. And I believe the main goal of my presentation is I want to share things in a way that whether you are in a market that supports you rocking and having a great income with another guy or two on 125 weddings a year, or whether you're in a market like Miami where you can spit out in your company 2,000 weddings a year, I want to be able to share a journey and share some pit stops and kind of create a nice presentation and a TED Talk that's going to allow everybody to take a little bit of something. And, if you want to convert that leap of faith, you're going to know how to do it. You're going to feel comfortable doing it. You're going to do it calculated in a way that you never stop loving what you do. If you've already made that leap of faith and this is what you do, maybe you'll like the sound of my voice and get a nugget, and we have some fun hanging out together for an hour.
Yeah, no, I'm very intrigued, and I'm sure everybody listening is just as intrigued to see what you have for us and to meet. Yeah, I'm looking forward to meeting you personally. I think you and I may have shaken hands passing in the halls of some of the conferences. Yeah, because I do. I recognize you as well. But I'm looking forward to having, to seeing you in February and to seeing what you've produced and created for everybody. Because that's you're a very interesting guy with a great story, and the whole thing is very intriguing. So I think that's going to be one of those things you need to put aside some time. If there's one or two you want to do, be sure, no matter what you do, at the end of the last day, be sure to come and see Jason Klock. Now remember, if you want to get tickets to this, you can go to DJNTV.com/tickets. And right now the tickets are as low as they're going to be, and use the code. I believe it's DJNTV 2020 or a DJNTV show 2020, one of those things. But use that code. I think I would remember that. Use that code and you'll get the best price on those tickets right now. And honestly, if you're thinking about going to Las Vegas for a conference, I mean, I've been to them all, and I will be going to Las Vegas twice this year. I am seeing for John here at this one, and then I'll going back again in March in Mobile Beat. But if you have to only do one, and it's because of finances right now, you know how much less expensive it is to go to Vegas in February than it is in March. It is ridiculous right now. It's just ridiculous. I mean, you got the largest. You got the St. Patrick's Day and the NCAA tournaments happening in March, and you got us, okay, in February. So you can get much better prices on your flights and your hotels and all kinds of things. And John, taking this on this year, has put together a conference way bigger. He's thrown everything at it, and I want to be sure you all get a chance to get a taste of what he's going to be creating as he goes down the line, because the Photo Booth Expo is who has taken on Mobile Beat magazine. So the Mobile Beat show will continue in some form, and it'll be because of the philanthropy of this businessman. Now, once again,
I'm excited. I'm really excited for this year. I know we might not look as good as spring break in March, but I really want to see the lineup of speakers, the lineup of talent, the people that you just have already committed to contribute to paying it forward in this industry is one of the most remarkable lists of people that I have ever seen. Yeah, talk about the heart and the knowledge of all these humans that have created immaculate businesses, reputations, and relationships in the industry with peers and employees and talent. It's going to be something special. So
I think so too.
I can't wait to attend, but I also can't wait to rock that stage either. Yeah. So
it's going to be great. February 24th, 25th, 26th, there's still seats available. Be sure to reach out, DJNTV.com/tickets, and you go to DJNTV.com and you can look at all the presenters. You can look at the schedule. Yeah, they've even got some great masterminds for only $100 a piece for 3 hours of mastermind work with some of these amazing people. So look into that as well. This is Presenter Spotlight. Thanks for checking in, and thanks for being a part of DJNTV. And we'll see you next time with our next presenter. And of course, we'll see all of you in February at the DJNTV show.